This is a whiskey I always get in trouble with. I would pronounce it Leif Erikson, but I'm assured with my Icelandic colleagues that this should be Leif Erikson. I think we just call him Mr. Erikson. I think probably just takes most of the pain away for that. This is an unusual whiskey for us, very, very unusual. Usually when we talk about Highland Park, it's always the balance between smoke and sweet, but there's in that sweet part which comes from the cask, it's also the balance between American oak and Spanish oak sherry casks. Well, this is all about American oak casks, to be honest. The reason for doing that is Mr. Erikson. He travelled from Iceland and he was the first man to discover the Americas. So we thought to celebrate his travel would just be, it'd be nice and different for our distillery to use the American oak cask that we have and create and fashion a whiskey that helps better explain his story, because he's quite an unusual Viking in that respect. The whiskey, when we only use something like American oak casks, what that means is you get that wonderful lemon and lime coconut flavours that come through. It's not as sweet as these Spanish oak casks. So what that does is it allows the smoke to come through and you get a completely different side to the Highland Park flavour profile. Basically, Highland Park has a spine which balances between Spanish oak and American oak, and this being the extreme of one side of the spine. It's exclusive to travel retail, so you have to travel just like Mr. Erikson himself, you have to travel around to try and find it. But ultimately, if you look at the colour of the whiskey itself is a little bit paler than we would have normal. It's there's a slight green hue to it, I suppose, and that's classic American oak doing that. And if you turn it 45 degrees and spin it all the way around, you see that the tears and legs are nice and fat. That's down to 40% alcohol again, but you can quite easily see that it takes a very, very long time. So there's lots and lots of flavour in the glass. And if you smell the whiskey, it doesn't jump up your nose like you would expect. And that's because that sweetness isn't there to do that. It's a lot drier. It's a lot more fresh fruit. The lemon and lime, that coconut classic American oak flavour is coming right the way through. But then when you taste it, chew it. Wonderfully, wonderfully dry. Instantly that kind of Orkney peat, that gentle smokiness hits you straight away. And then at the end it begins to sweeten up and lighten up and sweeten up and sweeten up. And again, takes a very, very long time before the finish comes. It's a very, very unique type of whiskey.